Are you curious about how to come into your seated forward bend a little better? Are you worried you might be doing some things wrong? Then this is the class for you. Short episode today, and we're going to dive into the details of how to do seated forward bend. Seated forward fold, pretty much the same thing. Roll the intro screen. Hello, magnificent human beings. My name is Landon. This channel is all about fixing the kinks in your practice by deepening your knowledge of yoga so that you can create a truly transformative practice for yourself. And today we are looking at seated forward bend, seated forward fold, paschimottanasana. It's all basically the same thing. So let's take a look. I feel that most people think that they just kind of bend forward here, and the number one thing we start to see is this rounding in our backs, right? And this is pretty much the opposite of what we really want to be doing, because now we're just taxing our back and we're not really getting into those hamstrings. And if you look from the front here, if you're really tight in this area, as you fold forward, your feet start to fall out as well. And when your feet fall out, you can come a lot further, but we want to keep them nice and straight as you come down. Now, the issue is, I think a lot of teachers who teach this pose are very flexible. And so they talk about, oh, don't round your back and keep your knees straight. Well, this is ridiculous because for the most of us, this is not accessible, right? I can't bring my torso all the way down to my shins and still keep everything perfectly flat because I have tight hamstrings. So here is the best thing to do. Put a bend in your knees. And again, I think people freak out. They're like, oh no, I don't want to put a bend in my knees because it doesn't look right. I don't see anybody else putting a bend in their knees. Well, go ahead and be the awesome shining example for the class of what you should do. If your hamstrings are tight, put a bend in your knees. It's okay. So go ahead, put that bend in your knees. And honestly, more than you think. I tell folks, put a bend in your knees, and they go, okay. No, really bring them up. And then you can create a nice flat spine. Puffing out your chest a little bit is a good way to think of it because that gets that length. Although it's kind of more of puffing out your chest is more of a byproduct of lengthening from that low mid back. So lengthen from low mid back and then hinge forward at your hips. Hands can grab wherever you like. So your inhales, you lengthen your spine. Exhales, you hinge forward. Inhales, lengthen. Exhales, hinge forward. So see, my back is relatively straight, correct? Which is really great because then you start to feel it more in your low back. And while, forward fold has a lot to do with hamstrings, it has just as much to do with your low back. So if your low back is really loose, then that helps, your glutes kind of loosen up as well, and then encourages your hamstrings. Everything is connected, right? So if you can easily bring your chest right here and still keep that flat back, perfect. Your next goal is to bring your heels out by about an inch and then do the same thing. You inhale, lengthen, exhale, hinge, inhale, lengthen, exhale, hinge. And then if you can still keep that flat back, then cool. Bring them out another inch. Inhale, lengthen, exhale, fold. Inhale, lengthen, exhale, fold. And then just keep working on this until eventually your legs will be all the way down and you can bring that torso all the way down. The next tip I want to share with you is about what your belly is doing. And it really helps to bring that belly in towards your spine because that will help you to encourage you to fold a little bit more. And in any yoga pose, there's a lot going on. There's also a lot going on here in this posture as well. So looking forward, We have a small bend in our knees. You inhale, lengthen, exhale, fold. So you want to keep that belly in to your spine, but still work with your breath, right? So that's the challenge. How do I keep my belly in at my spine and still breathe? So find the rhythm, find the cadence that works best for you. Looking forward, you really want to inhale, lengthen, exhale, fold, but still keep your eye gaze gently forward, not too much and not down, because that encourages us to round in our back, right? So just keep an eye gaze forward at neutral, creating that equal lengthening through our spine. And when you get to a point, there will be a rounding in your back just a little. It's going to naturally happen because it's almost impossible to keep a perfectly flat back and fold all the way forward. You're going to have that natural arc in your back, which is fine. But all the while, you really need to be thinking about the space between your vertebrae. So each inhale really creates that space. And each exhale helps you hinge at your hips. Bring your belly to spine and fold. So that will help you come deeper into your forward fold. Really, it's just about being comfortable in that low back and not compensating in one area, not letting your feet fall out, and then not rounding too much in your back as well. Oh, almost forgot. Last bonus tip I want to give you is some people have this kind of natural thing where they round too much and they're sitting back kind of on their butt. Roll your pelvis forward and kind of maybe waddle a little bit to really find those sits bones, because we definitely want to be making contact on those sits bones equally. And then you can start to come forward. And it almost feels like you're rolling past those sits bones onto this top part of your hamstring here. So eventually, if you just envision those sits bones coming up and up and up and up and up, they're going to move by millimeters each time you do this. So they're never really going to come all the way off, and way back. But that's kind of the mental visual we want, right? Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. I hope this was a good class, good, little explanation to help you to figure out some things. So again, put a bend in your knees. Don't worry about it. If you have a teacher that comes by and, shames you for putting a bend in your knees, then send them to me and tell them I said that, they just need to shut up because it's your practice. You should listen to your body. You should do what you want to be doing. And if you want to loosen up that low back, putting a bend in your knees is what you're going to need to do. So thank you all so much for being here. Friday's class is a full class that revolves around this pose. So be sure to subscribe and check that out as well. Thank you guys. From my heart to all yours. Namaste.